Dan Wetzel's the national columnist for Yahoo Sports, at Dan Wetzel on Twitter, and with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. What is up, Dan? How are you?
I'm well, gentlemen. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much. It is one of the most poetic, it depends on which side you're on, good poem, bad poem, one of the most poetic moments, really, for me in the history of sports, the way this all ended for Coach K.
Yeah, I mean, it was everything you could possibly dream up for a college basketball game. And then it turned out to be as good as the storylines and the stakes. I mean, it really was a great game. You didn't have the final buzzer beater, but Love's shot with to put it up 4 was pretty close. So, I mean, the ultimate bragging rights in a college rivalry is putting away is ending the career on the doorstep of a championship game of your arch rival, and sending the coach that really made the rivalry so good. Off and a guy you've certainly rooted hard against, if not really disliked. Although I just don't know how much you can really dislike him. But it was a great night for the Carolina fan. I can say that it had to have been about as good as it possibly could get, especially when you're sitting there in the final minute wondering whether you're going to win or lose.
You think people will probably laugh that I asked this question, but in retrospect, do you think there's any part of Coach K that wishes he wouldn't have done this victory lap?
I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe. I do think there were a couple things that were admirable about it. One, he didn't want to lie to recruits. And say, yeah, I'll be here for you, and then I'm not, especially when you know. B, he said he didn't have to recruit, so he was able to spend more time with the team. So I did think those were two things that should get a little bit of a credit. I mean, I do think at that stage of the game, I don't know that it really matters. I don't think the players in the final couple minutes are worried about, hey, this is Coach K's last game. I thought they were freaked out about it at the Carolina game at Cameron, but they had settled down after that. I mean, you're in a national semifinal. You're trying to win for your teammates, because you only get one shot. I mean, Duke's got 4 or 5 pros that are gone, and you only get so many cracks at it. I do think this, it'll go down as this forever defeat and disappointment because it was Carolina. If they had just gotten, let's say they had drawn Villanova and lost, or somebody else, like making a Final Four in your final year is a hell of an accomplishment. I mean, that's just a great. I mean, he's been to 13 Final Fours. He's the most successful coach we've had, and he's only been 13 times. So to make it that far really is a capstone. Winning it all is obviously the perfect thing, but I don't know that he'll ever get that real belief of what that team accomplished because of the way it ended.
Yeah, and we discussed that, Dan, because no matter where you are in college athletics, it's North Carolina Duke basketball. But if you're talking great rivalries, you may have North Carolina Duke basketball 1, but it doesn't take long to get to Alabama Auburn football,
right.
Or you may have Auburn Alabama football. So a lot of folks in our area have been thinking for a week about, man, what if this was Auburn and Alabama football? And you'd have to wear that for forever, it seems like. And I appreciate your point there on that. And the recruiting, the recruiting side of it, I had not even thought about that, Coach K being honest with recruits, because we've debated on whether or not, and I'd love your thoughts on this, on whether you thought legendary coach Nick Saban, when it comes his time, do you think he's the kind of guy that will say, okay, this is my final year, or your time of listening and being around him, do you think he's the kind of guy that will just ride off into the sunset with a quick release after his final game?
I think he just retires. Yeah, I don't think he's. It's a little different. First off, you'd have to start telling players years ahead. Yeah, freshmen don't play at Alabama. I mean, there's a couple, but you don't. It's not like you're going into a player's house and saying you're the number 2 player in the draft. You're the number 2 player in the class. You're coming here for 1 year. So he would have to start saying, like, hey, I may not play I may retire in the next 5 years. So that would be, first off, I think that's too much to ask of him. He wouldn't know, and that would decimate the whole process. So I think it's a little different. But I do not think he wants any part of of a rocking chair or a plaque or all of this stuff. I think Saban will whatever will happen, he'll decide I'm done, and that'll be it. So I think it's a different sport, and because of the dynamics of that, I think it's a little more fair to say to tell people. I mean, it's how Kay did it. For better or for worse, did it become a little bit too much? Yeah, but the one thing I would say, like, you didn't have to watch it. You don't want to, like, nobody makes you watch, like, all the retirement stuff. It's like you're choosing to kind of hate watch it if you're really that mad.
I love hate watching.
I mean,
we've all been there.
That ceremony after the Carolina game, and Cameron was obnoxious. Like, what are you watching for then? Like, you can watch the game and then move on. And are the announcers? I mean, I get all the Duke stuff. It was really bad for a while, and a lot of it was the ESPN guys as much as Kay. I mean, they loved it, of course. But, you're watching your team play another team, and you're hearing Dick Vitale talk about how great Duke is, and you're like, "What about my point guard? What about my guy? I want to hear about my team, not some other team this much." But that's the nature of it. I mean, he has the track record there, and I thought he became, people kind of warmed to him more when he got after the Olympics. He started coaching the Olympic team, and then he had some really likable teams. I mean, the Zion Williamson team didn't make the Final Four, but I think everyone was rooting for that team. That was so exciting. That was a real spark to college basketball, and so that was really the thing with Kay. He changed it up along the way. Really had a great career, and hating him kind of became its own little cottage industry. But I don't remember a Duke coach before him, and there's a lot of people younger than me. So anytime you lose one of those guys that you could just, maybe you don't follow college basketball all that closely, but all of a sudden you tune in. Okay, it's going to be a different thing, and we got it's on John Shire and Hubert Davis is showing he can do it. To keep the rivalry and keep those programs at the very top. But man, I'll tell you, about 2 months into the season, there were a bunch of Carolina fans going, "Boy, I don't know if Hubert Davis is that guy." So it's crazy.
Dan Wetzel is with us, national columnist, Yahoo Sports, New York Times bestseller, on Twitter at Dan Wetzel. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Am I overselling? Because I've said this a lot. Am I overselling how awkward it will be for Mark Emmert if he has to hand a trophy to Bill Self tonight?
I would think so. I mean, put it this way. Kansas has 2 of their bag men from Adidas are currently in prison. Like, if they want to watch the game, I don't know if they have lights out.
It is a late tip.
It's late.
It's a late tip.
Yeah.
So wait, Wetzel, you're painting a picture where these 2 guys are trading cigarettes to get the channel on TBS tonight.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that alone is its own absurdity and never should have happened. But I don't think it's like the streets of America are safer now because Adidas executives are not handing out money to great basketball parents. I, the one, feel much better. I feel safe. No one's getting a $10,000 brick tonight in high school basketball. I mean, this is but they're in there. I mean, Merle Code and Jim Gatto, especially Jim Gatto, was very, very influential, and it's it's not just Kansas. This is how it worked. They were bidding against Nike and Carolina and Duke. There's literally a part in that trial and all that stuff where Merle Code is talking to, and he's an Adidas consultant, a longtime Nike guy. Or actually, no, it's TJ Gassnola, who he's not in prison, but he only because he turned state's evidence, but he's a felon, was convicted. He's talking to Bill Self about, getting some. Self says we need to get some. I just need some real guys, right? And he's talking about recruiting, and Gassnola says, "Hey, to me, it's Adidas and Bill. It's Bill Self and Kansas first. That's the Adidas priority. We're going to funnel players to you first. All the other guys got to get in line." He's talking basically about Louisville and NC State and some of the others, and Self says, "Yeah, that's how they do. That's how Nike does it with Carolina and Duke." So this is just how college basketball works. But this is the inability of the NCAA to just close a case. It's amazing that it's taken this long. It's so inefficient. It's such bumbling. It's an effort to allow appeal after appeal and to foot dragging from Kansas. I mean, look, I know the case well. It all boils down to whether you think if you read the transcripts, do you think Bill Self knew what T.J. Gassnola was doing or Jim Gatto was doing or not? And Kansas says that he didn't. He had no idea what was happening. And the NCAA says, yeah, this is obvious. Listen to this. And that's the case. And so you put it in front of whatever your jury is and say, you guys decide. That really should be it. It's the same thing with LSU. And like when the guy's saying I'm making a strong ass offer, is he talking recruiting or not? If you don't think so, fine, whatever. But if you do, this shouldn't take 5 years or whatever. But here we are. And now you have that potential embarrassment of Kansas getting the title from Mark Emmert, and then 3 months from now, the NCAA slapping a 2-year show cause on Bill Self.
Well, you're well versed in this, but correct me if I'm wrong. Of the high-profile coaches involved in Adidas, Rick Pitino went down, Sean Miller went down, Will Wade just went down. The only one left is Bill Self. If he wins a national championship, there's no way he goes down, right?
Well, no, but he wins. The national championship part is the thing. Sean Miller wasn't winning. Bill, Wade, they waited as long as they could, but and I always say Pitino was really a lifetime achievement award. He was, that was the draw. It wasn't Adidas that told him to go to that Italian restaurant with the woman, but eventually it just, there was even Louisville was like, okay, we're done.
You're painting Pitino like Capone. They got him for tax evasion.
It's true, though. Yeah.
It was like, all right. I mean, this is like seriously, Rick. Like the escorts in the dorm, your behavior. Like at some point, there was enough. There was a breaking point for even LSU and Louisville. No, Self's got a lifetime deal, and he cannot be fired for whatever comes out of this case, which is astounding. And not only that, Kansas re-upped with Adidas. So, they were so victimized by Adidas, they can't believe Adidas was out there doing this stuff. They re-upped $196 million 13, 14-year contract with Adidas to keep it going. And now everything Adidas would do that they were doing for Billy Preston and Silvio De Sousa and all the other players they talked about in trying to recruit DeAndre Ayton is now they can do legally to the NCAA. So it's not even against NCAA rules, let alone federal statutes. So literally one of the most absurd things going on. So you could have Bill Self in trouble for violating rules that no longer exist while two guys sit in prison violating a federal law that barely existed, that not even the NCAA thinks is wrong anymore.
Somehow I picture Rick Neuhausel rolling a joint in legalized marijuana, Colorado, smoking it with his NCAA tournament bracket as the paper there. I mean, he got fired for an NCAA tournament bracket.
Really, I mean, when you compare it to what Dan's just talking about, that is absurd too, Dan.
Crazy world.
Yeah, the world changing quickly, and it's like everyone's like, really, that was a thing? It's still against the rules. They still drug test in the NCAA tournament for marijuana. And half the states in the country, it's perfectly, where I live, I could walk down and buy whatever I want right now, like you're walking into 7-Eleven, So, who knows, man?
Such a weird thing.
This is not a really efficient offer. I don't know what's going on, but it's a really could be awkward. I would imagine they want Carolina to win to avoid that. At least everyone pointing it out. But those initial raids took place in late September 2016 is when the case broke. Mm-hmm. And it's April of 2022. You should have gotten this done. And they didn't. And I was at those trials in New York, and one of the things that fascinated me was the lack of anybody in college athletics showing up to listen. It was a treasure trove of listening on how the system really works, what's going on. You could hear the stuff yourself. A lot of them sent lawyers, paid lawyers $500 to sit there. And I met a lot of those people, and they'd sit there and take notes. But it's not the same. Like if there's a fact finding mission, this is a trial. You should have had your You should have had a conference commissioner there, or an associate, or somebody from the NCAA, or somebody from this school just sitting there going, okay, what's going on here? I want to hear the dirt. So they all ran from it because no one wanted to know. And then after all the trials and everything was done, they said, all right, now we can start because we didn't want to get in the way of the feds. And it's like, we get in the way of the feds. Like, this stuff was all stated under oath. And so, like, TJ Gaffnola, the self-described Adidas bagman, who paid Billy Preston's mother $89,000 and literally describes, hey, I had $30,000, went down to a Manhattan hotel room, handed it to her. These are the text messages. Like, the whole thing's laid out. You either believe that or you don't. There's not another investigation going on. You're not getting these people to talk again. And so I just don't know how they didn't just fast track this. This was a gold mine. You're never getting TJ Gaffnola to talk on the stand unless he's facing 20 years in prison. But he did. So you either say he's perjuring himself or you say this is the fact. And this case is done in like a week. But for whatever reason, everyone was scared to show up in New York.
He is Dan Wetzel. Read his reaction to tonight's game at Yahoo Sports. Follow him on Twitter at Dan Wetzel. Great podcast with him, Pete Thamel, Pat 40. He just does a ton of stuff. Follow him at Dan Wetzel. You'll see it all. Dan, thank you for the time.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
All right, buddy. Take care. Dan Wetzel with us on, that's on me, Rockstar. I never have it open. It's completely on me. Dan on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.